Hello, sewmates. Welcome to my YouTube channel. This is BGB Wearers, and if this is your first time here, you are highly welcome. Please don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel so you get notified anytime I post a new sewing tutorial. In today's tutorial, I'm going to teach you step by step how I made this beautiful flared skirt with cutout details. This tutorial is beginner friendly, it is easy to follow, and it is well detailed. If this is something you would love to learn, make sure you watch to the end and let's sew this beautiful skirt together. So for this tutorial, I'm going to be needing just 3 yards of African print fabric. I used just 3 yards, and I also have my scissors, my chalk, and my ruler. So the first thing you're going to do is that you're going to fold your fabrics into two, just the way I've done like this. I said I have 3 yards, so I folded that 3 yards into two equal parts like this, and then I folded it again just like this. This skirt is not a 360-degree flare, and it's not a 180-degree flare. Ankara fabric is just 45 inches in wideness, so that's what we are going to be using. So you just fold it just the way you can see me do, and you leave about 1 inch for zip allowance, so that zip allowance will not be part of the calculation we are going to be making. So then we move to cutting our waist part. And how do you cut out your waist part? What you have to do first is that you take your tape rule, you divide your measurements by 4, you divide your waist by 4. My waist is 30 divided by 4 is 7.5, and then I folded that 7.5 to form like a semicircle like this, and I just looked for a point where that 7.5 is, and then I marked it just like this. So after doing that, I measured what it gave me, and then I measured that thing round. So it gave me about 9.5 here, and I just kept measuring that 9.5 to form like a curve. So you're going to put your tape at the tip of that African print fabric, and then you just measure it and form a line like this. Can you see? So you measure it, and whatever you have there, just leave it alone, but ensure you do that first. That's the first step to take. So the total length of my skirt is going to give me 32. I'm going to have my band. And also, because of this style, you will remove 4 inches from your total length. Leave the band first though. Remove 4 inches from your total length. Since our total length is 32 minus 4 inches, that's 28, right? So 28 is what we are going to be using to cut out the length of this skirt. We remove 32 is our total length. We are going to remove 4 inches, that's 28. The 4 inches is not for the band, it's for the cutout that is going to be there. So after I decided on using 28, then I'm going to measure 28 and rule out 28 for the length of my skirt. So I'll place my tape on that line that I made first at the waistline, and then I will rule it straight to give me 48 inches as my total length. So ensure that you are moving it in a circular way just like this. Ensure that you are moving it in a circular way just like this, 28 inches. Just measure 28 inches. Ensure you measure this round correctly, and then you are going to connect the lines together just like this. So the next thing we are going to do is to cut out the waistline, but ensure that you leave about ½ inch allowance on the waist part so that it will reduce the measurements. By the time you are done sewing, it will give you the exact measurements that you want on that waistline. And then the next thing you're going to do, you place your tape on that mark that you made and ensure that your measurement is 28, right? So I'm going to mark 22. That means I'm removing 6 inches from my measurement. I'm going to mark 22 here. I was marking 23 before, but I decided to use 22 instead so that I can have a perfect shape. So I used 22, and then I connected the lines together. So I'm going to cut this as well. Now note something here. You can decide to add allowance, and how you can add allowance is after cutting this middle space. When you're cutting the other one that is a downside, you can leave about 1 inch allowance. So that's what's going to serve as the allowance. But I don't want this skirt to be too long for me, so I decided to cut exactly what I have here, because I don't want this skirt to be too long for me. But if you want your skirt to be longer, you can add 1 inch allowance. But remember that in this calculation, I did not add my band to it, so that's another reason why I left it like this. By the time I'm done with my band, all the ½ inch I'm going to remove at those points is going to be replaced, because by the time I was done with my skirt, I eventually had 31 inches as my skirt length, and I love it like that because I don't want it to be too long. So I didn't bother to add any allowance to it. But if you are a tall person or you want your skirt to be very long, you can add 1 inch allowance to that second flare that we cut. So you have to ensure that you place your notch on every important side, on both the upper part, the lower part of the skirt, and also that other extension, that cutout. Ensure that you notch the center and every other part so that you won't be confused when you are sewing. So the next thing you have to do now is to reel out the strap we are going to be using for that bow at the cutout of the skirt. You know that opening on the skirt, there is a bow. There are bows that we attached round. So that's what we want to cut out now. So what I did here was to measure 4 inches. I measured 4 inches so that when I place my fabric on fold, I'm going to have 2 inches. And when I remove my sewing allowance, I will have about 1.5 left. So the wideness is going to be 1.5 by the time I'm done. So after marking out 4 inches, I connected the dots with my ruler. And then I'm going to cut this out. But what eventually happened was that this strap was not enough, though it was long. Remember that what I'm using is like 3 yards long. It wasn't enough for me at all because of the spacing that I decided to use. So you might need about 2 or 3 straps like this, depending on the spacing you are going to use for your skirts. So I had to cut out more of this eventually. Even when I was sewing, I still had to cut out some more. So you might need about 2 or 3 of these, right? So to be on the safer side, you might just cut more than one. I think I just cut maybe just 1 inches, just one strap, just one long strap, but eventually added more to it. And it was the same measurement that I used for my band. For my band, I also cut out 4 inches, and for the other ones too, I also cut out 4 inches. So we are going to start sewing now, and I have gone ahead to fold this strap, this long strap. I've gone ahead to fold it into 2, and I've been able to also turn it with my long ruler. So this is what we have after doing that. And the next thing I'm going to do now is to start cutting them. So please pay attention to what I'm doing now. I measured 7 inches. I'm going to be using 7 inches for all of these bows. So I measured 7 inches and I divided all my strap into 7 inches, right? So you just have to mark 7 inches. You can cut out one first and start using that one to cut the rest. Just ensure that it is very accurate, because it's important that it is accurate. Even though after tying the knot, we are still going to check the length again to ensure that we are very accurate. But when you are cutting, to ensure that you are accurate, right? Ensure that you are accurate. So after cutting out as many pieces as you can, then we are going to start knotting this thing. We are going to start knotting it. So just watch what I'm doing very carefully. When you knot it finish, put that knot that I put it to the center. I show it is at the center, and measure what you have. You must have 4 inches. Remember that what we cut out was 4 inches, right? You must have 4 inches or 4.5 inches. Either 4 inches, but to be on the safer side, just have 4 inches, right? So when you measure it, ensure that what you have there is 4 inches. So I just continued creating the knots. I just continued knotting. I was knotting, I was checking the measurement. I was knotting, I was checking the measurement. There was a particular one that I did that it wasn't very accurate. I had to remove the knot, measure again, tie the knot again, and I'll ensure that I have what I needed, right? So you can trim it if it's too long, but ensure that the knot is at the center, and ensure that what you have there is 4 inches or 4.5. Don't let it be more than that. So you know I said that this is my skirt. I'm not really adding sewing allowance, right? So but you can do 4.5 as your sewing allowance. So me, I'm just going to use 4 inches. But ensure that you don't have more than 4 inches or 4.5 inches, because that half inch is going to serve as a sewing allowance. We are going to be using bias to turn this side, so you don't need a lot of allowances. So the next thing we are going to do is to start marking this. So from the center, I'm going to start measuring 5 inch. This is at the base of the skirt, not at the waist part of the skirt. So I just measured 5 inch, 5 inch, 5 inch. I notched the center first, then I was measuring 5 inch till I reached the end of the skirt. And then I created a notch for both sides. You know, I made a mark on one side, so I had to create a notch so that that spacing is going to be visible on all the sides. And then I started putting my knots one after the other. So it's going to be at the end of each knot. You put that one of these roses, or let me call it bow, at the end of each notch that you created. So that's how you're going to do it. You just keep sewing it one after the other. Sorry, my thread broke here and I just had to quickly fix it. So one thing I did that really helped me was measurement. Even though I already had notches that were there to guide me, I still ensured that while sewing each of them, I was measuring. I ensured that the distance between one notch to another was still 5 inches. So you can also do this when you are sewing your own to ensure that you don't make any mistake. Ensure that you are keeping that distance as at 5 inches. You know the distance we are using is 5 inches, so ensure that you are keeping it at 5 inches so you don't make any mistake. So I just kept doing this until I was done. I kept doing this until I was done with everything. And I also did the same thing for the other side. That cutout that we have for the down part, I did the same thing here. So I didn't film that part. I didn't know I wasn't recording. So this what I did was that I also I folded it and I made a notch and I spaced it at 5 inches, just the way I did for the first one. Okay, so and I attached the first rows to the second part of it. Just see what I'm doing here. So you can see that I have a mark. I'll just take the edge of that rose and put it at a notch. So I was even using a pen here so that I won't make any mistake. Can you see? You can see that I'm using my tape rule to measure it. So I was ensuring that it's still 5 inch I'm using, and I'm using my pen to mark it to ensure that I don't make any mistake. This is very important because if they don't tally, if the upper part of your skirt and that cutout part don't tally, it's not going to give you the result that you want. It's not going to flow the way you want, and it's going to look very rough. So you have to ensure that both the upper part and the down part, they tally. And the best way you can do this is to ensure that your measurements are the same. So ensure that as you are sewing each roses to the skirt, you are measuring 5 inches as the distance, and ensure it is consistent and steady. So after I was done with this, it was time to turn the rough edges with bias. So you're going to take your bias like this and start sewing it on both the upper part and the down part, so that it's going to cover the rough edges that you have, and your result is going to be neat. If you are going to use a lining for your skirt, a lining would have been the one to do this part, but we are not using any lining. I'm going to use a bias tape. So that bias tape is what I use here. And after, just look at what I'm doing. After sewing the first time, then I'm going to also sew it down like this. I ensure that the rough edges are tucked in, so I won't have any fraying material at the side of my skirt. So I was ensuring I was doing this neatly, ensuring that the rough edges are neatly tucked in and my work is very neat. So I did the same thing to the other side as well, and I've done those parts. And this is me sewing my band. You know, as I said earlier, my band is 4 inches and on fold is 2 inches. By the time I'm done, my band is only 1.5 inches. So I was able to do this, and the next thing I did after this was to fix my zipper. I sewed the sides and I fixed my zipper. And this is the final result of our skirt. This skirt is very beautiful and it can be styled in different way. You can wear something black on it, you can wear white on it. It is very beautiful. You can never go wrong with these skirts. Thank you so much for watching. Kindly like, subscribe and share if you found this video helpful. I'll see you in my next video. Bye.